Hello everybody! I've spent about 9 hours making this little clay figurine, and it was my first proper attempt at a dinosaur figure, so I had to make a Therizinosaurus, which is my favourite genus. This, specifically, is Therizinosaurus chelonoformis, and I'm going to talk about some of its facts while I continue to paint my figurine. This specific species was the first of its kind to be found, and could grow up to giant sizes of up to 10 metres, 33 feet, in length, and up to 5 metres tall, or 16 feet. Coming together to make a weight of a possible 5+ tons. A chunky guy. This odd creature lived during the late Cretaceous period in prehistoric Asia, and was first found in the Gobi Desert in 1948, but was described in 1954. The most common trait of the Therizinosaurus family is their ginormous claws, which could grow up to lengths with some species of 50 centimeters or 20 inches, making them the largest claws of any animal to have ever lived. In fact, the claws were one of the first fossils found of this genus and species, which actually led the paleontologist Malève to believe that the claws belonged to an extinct species of large turtle, which is where Therizinosaurus chelonoformis gets its name, meaning turtle-formed scythe lizard, with the family being named Therizinosauridae, which means scythe lizard. This misconception was due to the lack of fossils and it being the only found relative at the time. Although misconceived originally as defensive weapons, their claws were likely used for intimidation displays, mating, and grabbing foliage/vegetation, helping it eat more like a sloth, a classic example of convergent evolution, where unrelated species evolve similar attributes. These animals were characterised by not only their claws, but by having long necks, being herbivorous, and being in the theropod group, which evolved into birds. They lived alongside the predator Tarbosaurus, which was a closely related tyrannosaurid to T-Rex itself. We can see these two species interacting in the original Walking with Dinosaurs special, the giant claw. It's truly one of my favourite species, if not my number one, and it was fun attempting this as my first proper clay piece of paleo art. I hope you guys like it. The colours of this clay figurine are actually based off of a painting I did a few weeks back. Here's a photo of the original painting. I tried to be inspired by the colours of the blue macaw, which is a tropical parrot species. I really like the colours and I think they blend really well together, especially showcasing the idea that all birds are dinosaurs. But remember, all birds are dinosaurs, but not all dinosaurs are birds. This devolves from the fact that all birds are classed under the clade Dinosauria, which involves every single dinosaur. More specifically, they are within the family of theropods. This means that they are in the same family as species such as Tyrannosaurus rex, Eutyrannus, Archaeopteryx, and this species of theropod, Therizinosaurus. It's really important to recognise that birds are dinosaurs because it really helps us link together how we got to our modern world today. In fact, they think that a lot of dinosaurs, not just avian dinosaurs, had feather-like structures, often called pycnofibers. A common example of this speculation is PalaeoNX, which would have lived in very cold environments, also such as Eutyrannus. Now, Eutyrannus we do have direct feather evidence for. However, PalaeoNX is purely just speculation as we have no fossilised evidence of feathers. However, it's much more likely that archosaurs as a whole have a feather-like structure, with them eventually growing and developing into more feathery feathers, if that makes sense, which would eventually lead to the development of powered flight through feathers. However, please note that it was not a very common thing. In fact, we don't really have that much evidence of it. With feathers being very delicate structures, we do not have that much evidence overall in the fossil record, but we do have some specific evidence, such as the Archaeopteryx bird, alongside Eutyrannus, which is a tyrannosaurid which was found with preserved feathers. It's more likely that a lot of these creatures evolved very similar structures through convergent evolution, and they eventually diverged into birds. This can actually link me back to something I said earlier. With dinosaurs, specifically avian dinosaurs and theropods evolving into birds, making birds dinosaurs, we know birds are classed as reptiles, which is a really weird thought to think about. But if you take a closer look at a bird's foot, you begin to see that recognition much easier, as they have almost these scaly-like feet. And also, this is a horrendous thing to look at, but if you look at a naked chicken, they look very dinosaur-y, especially in the way their arms are positioned. Anyway, enough bird talk, let's talk more about specifically Therizinosaurus, which is of course this clay figure. We don't actually have any direct fossil evidence of feathers for this specific Therizinosaurus. However, due to something called phylogenetic bracketing, which essentially means we take the traits of other species and closely related dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals, we can sort of associate those traits with one another. Meaning that if other closely related Therizinosaurids had these pycnofibers or hair-like assets, which we do have direct evidence for in relatives, we can probably assume that Therizinosaurus had them too, which leads to these very cool bushy looks. Now the tail design I actually went off of was off of the original Isle designs, which picture very bushy tails, which I really like the look of, so I wanted to incorporate that. I'll stop talking now, and you guys can sit back, enjoy the music, and watch me finish off the painting. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Here's some photos of the finished product, and I hope you guys stick around for more prehistoric facts. I typically make shorts, so go check some of those out. Have a good day.